points we are going to cover in this session: understanding VPPAs, corporate sustainability commitments, outlook for India's CNI solar market, regulatory ambiguities, barriers to widespread adoption and sellers to engage in VPPAs, policy evolution for VPPA success, and we have Mr. Suraj Narayan as our moderator, who is lead of modeling and analytics, Wood Mackenzie Power and Renewables Research, APAC. I would like the panelists, my distinguished speakers to come on the stage. I would announce the names then. Rajneesh Sharma, Mr. Rajneesh Sharma, please be here on the stage. He's the partner consulting of Energy and Sources, Deloitte Touche Tomatsu India LLP. I would like to request Mr. Pawan Kumar to join this session. Mr. Pawan Kumar Agrawal, Chief Executive Officer of Wari Group. I would like Mr. Binaya Bhushan Panda, Chief Operating Officer of Gensol Engineering Limited. Please join us on the stage. Next, I would like to have Unmesh Jagtap, Chief Executive Officer of Subnation Engineering Infra LLP. Next, we would like to have Mr. Randeep Bora, Associate Director, Business Development of Ample Energy Transition. And here we have all the respected speakers, and it's my request that we can just start this session.
Hello. A very good morning to all. Thank you, the audience, and thanks a lot, esteemed panelists, for coming to this panel discussion. So, before we move on to the topic, so I'd like to just give a brief introduction from our side, maybe a 2-minute intro into the topic of VPPAs, and well, of course, after that we'll delve deeper into that with our panelists. So. Before even that, I'll just like to give a quick introduction of what we do at Wood Mackenzie. So we essentially guide companies in their energy transition journey. We focus on the entire value chain in supply chain, technology, systems, market dynamics, integrated power outlooks, global energy transition. And we also cover, as you can see, wind, solar, energy storage, grid edge, and EVs. This is a small example of what a product that we have, and it's called as Lens Power, and it's essentially one data set across the globe which covers 57,000 wind assets, 35,000 plus solar assets, 22,000, almost 22,000 conventional assets, 11,000 hydro assets, and a lot of energy storage, hydrogen, ammonia, and electrolyzer assets. So it's a very interesting data set. Feel free to contact me in case of any curiosity in this. Now, moving on quickly into our topic of the day, which is CNI solar in India, and maybe we'll also delve into the details of VPPA after this. As of now, CNI solar covers almost 50% of the total electricity demand in the country. On the other hand, around 6 to 10% of the CNI demand is only met by renewables. So that's a humongous potential market waiting to be unlocked in the next decade or so. And what we have shown here is that out of the total demand, this is 2023 data of more than 1,400 terawatt hour, around 700 terawatt hour was purely CNI demand, and only 6 to 10% of it was met by green energy. Now, what's the potential of CNI market growth in India? There are multiple views on it. But what we feel at Wood Mackenzie is that this market could reach north of 80 to 100 gigawatt by 2030-31. It's essentially more than a 350% growth from the 20 to 25 gigawatt that we have currently in 2023. So the potential of this market is humongous. Greening the potential of this market is again humongous. Now, that's essentially where VPPAs come in. So VPPAs, it's I wouldn't say a relatively new concept. The concept has been here for some time, though it hasn't really taken off. It uses the concept of CFD, or contracts for difference, where a strike price is agreed between the CNI customer and the RE developer or the generator. And the interesting thing is there is no physical delivery of power. And what's actually transferred is the green attribute of electricity from the developer to the CNI consumer. It's essentially a financial instrument. What happens is that the RE generator in this side, they sell their power to the IEX or PXIL or HPX as brown power because the green attribute is already lost. On the other hand, the CNI customer could be buying power again from the discom or even from the exchange, and again as brown power. But the green attribute of electricity is what the CNI customer gets, and they agree upon a strike price, and then depending upon the volatility, the ups and downs of the market price, a settlement mechanism is reached where the customer and the RE developer settles. So it's an interesting mechanism, and maybe in a lot of European markets, it's a mechanism that has been the entry route for renewables, and there are multiple types of CFD mechanisms anyways. But this is the overall idea of VPPAs. Now, I won't take a lot of time because I want to get the opinion of the panelists on this, but just a quick note on what are the drivers and barriers for VPPAs in India and essentially for scaling up the solar. So the major driver being that the CNI customer wants to go more sustainable and meet their RE 100 or science-based targets. There is long-term revenue stability for the generator. And it's a flexible contract, and they can offset their scope 2-3 emissions, the CNI customer. There's a clear case of additionality, and this because the projects are essentially going to be built solely for the purpose of VPPA. And one of the interesting points is that there would be extremely less resistance from the discoms, which we have seen in the open access regime, being that assuming that the consumer still takes the electricity from the discoms. Moving on, what are the barriers? The spot market liquidity is relatively low in India. Market prices are still volatile. VPPA is essentially a cost premium or a cost plus option for the CNI customers. There is regulatory uncertainty, which is probably the biggest barrier between SEBI and CRC. And lack of guidelines, operational guidelines, standard guidelines. And of course, if the green energy open access is completely implemented across all states, then the question would be whether or not the CNI customer even wants something like a VPPA. So yeah, that's my brief intro into the topic. And now I guess we can get into the opinion of the panelists. So yeah, I'll probably go to that side. Yeah, thank you. So before we move on, I would actually like a round of introduction from our panelists. We can go this direction from Mr. Randeep Bora. So over to you. I think you can introduce yourself, your organization and all.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Randeep Bora. I'm representing Ampin Energy Transition. We are primarily an IPP with multiple investors in the company. We have been operational for last 8 years or so. And we have a portfolio of around 4 gigawatt across utility as well as the CNI segment. I specifically look into the business development side of it, and obviously CNI, VPPAs, battery storage, and various other things are part of my domain, and we have been actively engaging with multiple customers, and we have in last year we have signed a very large contract, which is kind of a quasi VPPA, which with Amazon that we had done. We were one of the developers. There were multiple parties to it, and beyond that, we have been exploring various other opportunities in the market. How to develop the entire VPPA scenario in general. About myself, I have been working in the sector for last 18 years, specifically into the RE sector, and happy to share my thoughts on the topic. Yeah.
Good morning. Myself, Dr. Unmesh Jagtap. I'm a mechanical engineer and my master's in renewable and then doctorate in solar energy. I'm CEO of Zone and Shine Engineering and Infra. Also CEO of Luxra Solar India, which is into module manufacturing, and Zone and Shine is into EPC, mainly rooftop and ground mounted for industries and commercial sector.
Very good morning to everyone. I am Rajneesh Sharma. I'm partner in Deloitte and I focus on renewable energy consulting. Overall, close to 17 plus years of experience in renewable energy. have worked across around 20 countries, mainly on renewable energy related aspects. So I work a lot with the government, ministry like MNRE, state agencies on their renewable energy program. We work a lot with donor agencies on creating new concepts, and also a lot with private, more on the corporate RE related elements.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Pawan Agrawal. I work as CEO of Wari Group's renewable IPP business. As you know, Wari is one of the largest module manufacturers in the country, and we also have business interests in green hydrogen battery storage, and we have started setting up a very large-scale renewable IPP. Our focus will be both on utility scale as well as C&I. And personally, I have been involved in this sector for very long. I've been part of multiple committees by MNRE, part of US India Task Force, part of Clean Energy Finance Forum. So I'll be happy to contribute during the session. Thank you.
Hi, good morning everyone. Myself Vinay and I representing Gensol Engineering Limited. So we are focusing on, basically my team is focusing on EPC, and we have a portfolio of more than 2 gigawatt projects now, and we are expecting another 1.5 gigawatt by next 2 to 3 months. And we are also, our other team, they are doing operation and maintenance, which is close to 8 gigawatt, and we are in mobility also, Blue Smart, and we are also in hydrogen and electrolyzer also. And we are also trying to do base manufacturing at Aurangabad. So there are a lot of plans, and we are trying all renewable at one place. That is our thought. So thank you.
Thank you. Hello. Yeah, sorry, there was a small technical glitch. So yeah, before we maybe delve deeply into the topic of VPPAs, one thing that I'd be really curious to know is, because all of you are coming from the different sectors of the energy transition itself. We've got developers, we've got module makers, we've got EPCs, and we've got consultants who's worked deeply into the sector. So what's your general outlook for CNI market in India? And there is a strong positive uptick from maybe the last couple of years. And how do you see this growing over the next decade or so? And also maybe how businesses can basically leverage this to meet their sustainability goals. So yeah, I would like to go across the table on this, maybe the same order. So yeah.
Okay. So as you all know, the open access market in India started maybe in 2018 with the Karnataka policy coming in. So what we have seen in last maybe around 5 to 6 years of the open access regime is that we have gone from a 0 to kind of a 13 gigawatt, 14 gigawatt type of a number. And what we have also seen is that the development in the last couple of years has been very significant. Approximately around 3.2 gigawatt of capacities of open access were installed in 2023, the FY 2023, and then last quarter in this year we have seen approximately around 1.8 gigawatt of installations that has happened. So definitely the market is going on on a rampage, on a trajectory which we think that there will be approximately around 100% growth on a year-on-year basis, and by 2030, I don't know, the numbers will be in the range of around 40 to 50 gigawatt. So on a year-on-year basis, maybe around 6 to 7 gigawatt of installations are likely this year, and the same numbers will be projected on a year-on-year basis. Obviously, the challenges are multifold. For example, land, regulatory challenges, but there are multiple positive sides as well. With the green energy open access rule coming in, the limits on 1 megawatt rule has come down to 100 kilowatts. So now today, even a telecom tower or a bank ATM is also talking of open access. So that's the kind of penetration that we are looking at. And that's why we think that going ahead, the market is, as you have seen in the slide, it's only around 9 to 10% of penetration in the RE space, what we have seen till date. And there is a potential of another 90. So next 10 years, I see immense growth in the overall CNI development side, because more and more corporates are getting into it. And then in terms of VPPA, when you talk of VPPA, when it comes to play, is that there are a lot many states. For example, today approximately around 18 states have green energy open access rules which has been notified, and also they have the green tariff which have been notified. So that's a very positive sign. In general, in the states, for example, Assam, Bihar, Jharkhand, all of them have come out with their GEOA draft regulations, and some of them have notified it as well. So we have gone into the hinterlands of India where we have seen open access coming into real play. So, and it is not now only located to, specified to Karnataka, Maharashtra, Gujarat, which are the three largest states in terms of the overall install capacity, but we see that the market has gone beyond that. Rajasthan, Gujarat, MP, Orissa for that matter has done significantly well. So, and then there are some states where, although the policy is there, but there are regulatory challenges, which we see is a issue wherein VPPA can play a significant role, because with solar open access, you can replace approximately, say, around 50 to 60% of your grid power. With a hybrid project, you can go up to 70%. With, say, hybrid with banking, you can go around 85% in states like Tamil Nadu and Gujarat. But beyond that, there will always be a gap of around 15 to 20% in states like Andhra and Telangana, where the open access policy is not being properly implemented. There you see a lot of traction where you are not able to get physical power. And then you move to a zone where you look at VPPAs as a real solution to cater to your net zero goals in the near future. So overall, I think the market has a huge potential. And we are present all across the country. We have 4 offices. I'm based out of Kolkata. We have a head office in Delhi, and then we are working all across all regions and developing customers both on ISTS as well as interstate projects. And we have projects in Rajasthan. We have projects in Andhra. We have projects in Orissa. We are developing projects in Jharkhand and Chhattisgarh as well. So, in and all, I would say it's a very positive time for the market. As we all know, the module prices have also come down significantly. So that adds to the overall capacity addition. So I think BPPA will fill in the gaps where the physical power is a challenge to be delivered on a real-time basis. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Bora. Over to you, Mr. Unmesh.
So, C&I sector is around 49% consumer of electricity, and around 70 to 80% of rooftop comes from this commercial and industrial sector. Now the trends which we can see, or the aspects in future, like more and more MSMEs are adopting to solar. The expected solar rooftop is around 4 gigawatt in 2024. And some trends like rooftop is getting popular. Then there are innovative business solutions like the one we are discussing, VPPA, PPA, open access. All these things are giving favorable conditions. Then there are some good policies coming, like in Maharashtra MERC, they have gone increase the net metering limit up to 5 megawatt, group net metering, virtual net metering is allowed. So these are also helping. Then financing, there are many modes of financing are available. Apart from that, technological trends are like we are moving towards bigger modules. Now from poly we are shifting to N-type, 585, 600 watt peak modules. That saves the cost, economy is better. Then bifacial modules are coming, which are giving more output in less space, which is again improving the economics and ROI periods. Battery storage is another thing which is gaining popularity in next 2 to 4 years. Around 20% will be with battery storage, because it's a strong solution for diesel powered gensets, battery backup, energy storage, solar systems. BIPV is another thing which is gaining popularity, especially in commercial buildings, offices, big commercial complexes. So all these technological trends are also evolving, and I think the future is very bright in C&I sector, and it will grow at a rapid pace.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Rajneesh. So maybe you can also cover a bit on the CNI customer side and how it's kind of their requirement for meeting these sustainability goals are also driving. So yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you. So definitely, I mean, we heard around the C&I market in general. So the prospects obviously are bright, and we need to look at from two, three elements per se. One obviously is the overall, economic growth we are witnessing. So C&I, as highlighted, comprises of close to 50% of our overall electricity requirement. So one, currently, if you see from the economic angle, we have a per capita, income level of 2,500. Under the Viksit Bharat, we are trying to attain, will expect to go above $10,000 per capita of income. So what will happen? One, obviously, large scale urbanization. 2/3 of our area would be more or less urban, so more commercial. Second, industrialization will play a very, very important role. So the level of growth will be almost 2x. So definitely the energy demand will grow, and industry will play a very, very important role. So, I mean, there are figures like 50 gigawatt to 90 gigawatt by 2030, but if you think around 2050, it will be too big at any scale. So that's point number one. Second is, I think, on the technological, advancement. So we have seen, plain vanilla solar rooftop adoption already been happening. A lot of C&I players have gone with, rooftop and others. I work a lot in India, Bangladesh and other territories. So that's a plain vanilla easily been happening, and they are able to attain like 30-40%. So the next thing is obviously how to go beyond that. So are there, market instruments available in India? Like we are talking about VPPA, RE hybrid storage, battery is being well talked about. So whether we have reached that, tipping point or not, that's more on that. Second important element which will happen, if you see all these large corporate, large brands specifically, they are already talking about RE100. And their target of RE100 is 2030. And most of them are working on what to do now. We are already 40-50%. Where is the next thing? Because when we talk about energy, it's not only electricity. The issue is more on the thermal energy. If you talk about textile, pharma, and different industries, they rely a lot on coal, gas for getting, high pressurized steam in general. So a lot of, focus is on that disruption also on electrification of the thermal system. So a lot of work is going on there, and you need to visualize that once that happens, the demand of electricity will go up high. So currently, whatever numbers we are thinking is more around the electricity sector only. The moment the thermal energy kicks into an electrified boiler, then the demand would be like 4 or 5 times more. So that's another element. And another one is more on the supply side and related to the technical side. So plain vanilla solutions are there, but there is a lot of focus on new innovative solar applications, like BIPV is being talked about. So rooftop solar has been done, land related ground mounted and wind are being done, but there's a lot of focus on land neutral, solutions also, like agri PV is being talked about, BIPV and other solutions. How these solutions will come at a obviously cost economic basis for the C&I customers, because one, I mean, just to summarize, the demand is very high. I mean, what we are seeing today, it may become 4 or 5 times the moment the electrification happens. The second point is we need to work on obviously having the right technical solution as well as the market solution, because the customers are there. Everyone wants to become RE100 apart from the environmental reasons, but also the commercial reasons. But how do we, disrupt that more through innovation and market offerings is the key part. I'll stop here.
Yeah, thanks, Rajni. So over to you, Pawan. So I'd also kind of tweak this question specifically for you because you're one of the largest module makers and also, if I may say, venturing into the IPP side of it. So how do you, kind of in your focus, what does it look like, the potential for CNI market in India versus, the utility market? Yeah.
Sure. No, so it's not utility versus C&I. C&I is growing very, very rapidly, and so is utility scale projects. Idea is that, and as some of the earlier panelists rightly touched upon, when you see it becoming commercially viable and at the same time being more sustainable, it becomes a no-brainer, right? So the reason why we see C&I actually so rapidly increasing is not only because people are committed to make a brighter and greener planet, which is of course a necessity, but it is making commercial sense also to do that. And lot of market models are evolving. What we are going to talk about today in terms of virtual PPAs, what we see is happening around IREC, which is also briefly touched upon by a couple of panelists before. So different kind of contracting, different kind of markets are also shaping up to make sure that this journey continues. And if you look at in terms of size, we are talking about 50 gigawatt of C&I market by 2030. And whether it is utility scale or C&I scale, in terms of manufacturing, as you rightly touched upon, the demand for solar modules, which we are into the business of, will definitely keep on increasing very high. Yesterday we were part of a couple of other sessions where people are talking about that the days of plain vanilla solar are gone. But if you look at solar, will continue to be one of the very important ingredient in the entire renewable energy chain. You will see pure vanilla solar also, and you will see a lot of hybrids, lot of other solutions where solar will be the backbone. Because again, the primary reason of that is because it is still within the renewable also, solar is the cheapest source of power. So different structures and models need to be built upon, wherein solar continues to support the entire RE journey for the planet, whether it is in the form of utility scale or it is in the form of C&I, those are smaller things to solve. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Pawan. So over to you, Mr. Binia. I'd like to ask you a similar question, but maybe also touch upon, what are the operational challenges in terms of maybe land acquirement, which is a continuous issue. So yeah, what are your views on C&I market and the other challenges that come with it?
So, if you see the C&I market with respect to manufacturing and services, if you include both, so this is 50% of your GDP, and we are moving towards 5T economy. So focusing on that, and we have a target of 500 gigawatt by 2030. So if you see the C&I with respect to renewable energy, it is very less now. And what I have seen that it is coming around 5 to 7 billion, 7 billion renewable implementation is going to be by FY 24-25, but we are expecting 25-30 billion by 2030. So to achieve that, we have to increase the renewable portfolio in C&I sector. So in C&I sector, the major problem is operational issue. What is the operational issue? Suppose I will give one example. I am sitting with one cement plant few days back. So what happened? To run a 1,000 metric ton cement plant, they need close to 50 megawatt of energy. So there is an energy consumption of close to 50-60 megawatt. But when they are using renewable energy, then there is some constraint, because in the daytime, if there is a cloud, then suddenly there is a dip. Maybe the plant is running at 25-30 megawatt. At the same time, due to the cloud issue or any other issue, the megawatt is immediately dip into 5 megawatt or 6 megawatt, which is creating a larger impact on the system and process, because they are unable to run the plant at that time, because there are a lot of drives which need a constant power, which is not possible at the same time. So VPPA is the right solution for that in C&I sector, what I think, because there is no need of sending physical power or any plant to be installed within the premises. So you can install the plant anywhere else and they can draw the power. That may be brown power or any kind of power. And also I can see many companies are trying to do different kind of incentives. They are also following RE100 or EP100. And many companies are also working for science-based target. So RPO obligation is also there, RPO is there. So these kind of things, definitely it will attract the market, and I hope by next 5 to 6 years, we can move from, we can expect at least 60 to 70 gigawatt or 80 gigawatt from the 500 gigawatt to achieve that 500 gigawatt target.
Yeah, thanks. I think we've got a good base on the outlook for CNI in India. Maybe we can get deeply into the VPPAs. So I'll start with Mr. Randeep Bora itself. So you've kind of touched upon it, which is kind of the interplay between open access and VPPAs, right? But how do you actually see this moving forward? You know, you also touched upon the implementation of green energy open access, but if it gets implemented, then do you actually feel the VPPAs stand a significance in the market? You know, given how the corporates would be looking at it. So yeah, very curious to understand your views on it.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because so VPPA comes into play when there is no physical power. So when you go to a steel plant today, they are talking of green steel. They want to export steel into the European market, and they see them coming in a couple of years' time. So there are a lot of challenges that we see. So the first preference, I think, will be definitely physical power, which is open access, ISTS, or maybe green tariffs, which have already come in. And only after that, if there is a remaining quantum which is left over, or in a state where there are no regulatory policies, conducive regulatory environment, or there is no land availability, or there are, for example, these small setups where you are not able to physically deliver power. Those are the kind of installations where we see a lot of potential for VPPA. But when you talk of very large corporates, we have seen a couple of deals happening in the last couple of days as well, 125 megawatt. We have also signed up very large contracts. People at this point of time, if you are looking at the first go, is around 75-80% replacement through hybrid ISTS projects is what people are looking at. Because a couple of years back, that was not practically possible, but so many regulations have come in and so many conducive environment has been created in general by MOP, CRC, and the state regulators has also adopted most of them. That's where we feel that today, and also recently these last year, the FDRE contracts have been come into play where you are, you have to, you are predicting a demand and then you will have to meet the demand by around 90%, and there is a slot-wise power demand which has been scheduled. So those kind of things when you look at, so you are today talking of replacement of around 80-90% purely through physical power. So if you are replacing through physical power, definitely VPPA takes a second stage, I would say, until and unless the demand has been catered. Having said that, we think that everywhere hybrid is not possible. Only there are few states like Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, where VPPAs, the hybrid projects are suitable. And these wind sites are getting exhausted by the day. Because in India, we all know wind has been operation for last 20 years, vis-a-vis solar around 15, maybe 20, 25 years. We started in 2000. So, so although there are a lot of inquiries, but then open access and then maybe green tariffs are the way to go forward at the first sense. And then the remaining quantum of around maybe 20%, 15%, and that quantum is coming, it is getting lower because there are so many other options. You have GDAM market through which you can get IEX power, and you can trace those power installations as well. Today, it is so much automated and so much everything is online, so you can physically trace the power. So on a real-time basis, I think VPPA market has definitely a potential, but it will take its own course and it will only happen in pockets where the physical power delivery is a challenge. That's what's my take.
Yep, thank you. Maybe I'd like to go to the other panelists, but just a kind of counter question on this. But so green tariffs are essentially at a premium, and your GDAM to an extent, or GDAM is less liquid, but so do you still think it's going to bring down the prospect of VPPAs?
VPPA is anyways a cost plus kind of a thing, right? So whatever tariff you are dealing with, you are still paying the same tariff with the grid, right? So VPPA is an additional cost of whatever value, like 15 paisa, 20 paisa, vis-a-vis where we look at it is the green tariff is around 60 paisa, right? Roughly around 60, 65 paisa across. So when you, and then there, so first option is obviously open access, because these tariffs are at least 1 to 2 rupees cheaper than the grid tariffs, and then you have a fixed contract over a long period of time. VPPAs, if you exactly look at the pure CFD contracts, those will be anyways volatile, very volatile. You do not know the future, and we want long-term contracts, 15 years. So you cannot predict the price. So people will would like to lock in their prices, along with reduction of carbon emissions, because carbon emission obviously is one of the key agenda, but at the same time, India has to be also competitive in the global market. So your prices of manufacturing has to go down. So you cannot add on something which doesn't reduce your overall manufacturing cost. So it can only cater to maybe at best 20 to 30% of their requirements. But beyond that, they will obviously look, people at the industry segment, CNI segment will definitely look at the other options. Yeah.
Thanks, Bora. So I'll move on to Mr. Unmesh Dikta. But from a project implementation perspective, are there any technical or logistical challenges when structuring a project under the VPPA model?
So VPPA is basically a kind of a complex agreement contract. So and it's a more or less a financial tool rather than a project thing. So the main challenges, what we can see is first the regulatory compliances between say SEBI and CERC, or the local regulatory bodies. So those compliances, approvals is the first challenge while designing a project. Secondly, it's linked to market fluctuation. So need to study the market fluctuation rates very carefully, because the whole financial feasibility will stand on that market fluctuations. Forecasting of the rates, that is another major criteria while designing the project. Again, the more accurately you forecast the fluctuation in rates or increase in rates, the more will be your financial feasibility. Thirdly, the regions like solar is mainly producing in daytime, while wind is more in night time. So while you are setting up a project, PPA project, hourly rates you need to study carefully to get the proper financial feasibility. Project implementation is another thing. Solar and wind are more dependent on the regional or environmental or weather conditions. So extensive study of the generation or forecasting, designing is very important, because otherwise it may happen that if the project underperforms, there can be conflicts with the buyer. And many times the buyer may demand generation guarantees or production guarantees, because the whole economics will depend on how the project is performing. Secondly, legal aspects needs to be carefully studied. Your accounting capabilities or accounting expertise has to be very good for this whole VPPA thing. Compliances is another thing. So all these challenges are more important while designing this kind of projects.
Yeah, thank you. So thanks a lot. So I'll move on to Rajneesh, and this is more of a question on the market itself, right? So the project then would be exposed complete to the market prices, and we have seen the prices. To starters, market is less liquid compared to a lot of liberalized markets. It's gaining liquidity, but still the prices are volatile. You've seen the daytime prices hitting 1 rupee 50 paisa, and well, the peak could, on the other hand, could hit 10 rupees, and the government had to intervene last year to put a cap and have an additional HP dam. So this is essentially a big ask for the CNI customer to lock in. The market is less liquid, more volatile. So do you think the CNI customer has that kind of risk appetite going ahead?
So yeah, definitely an interesting question. So VPPA precisely is a market instrument, and it's bound to overcome or at least foresee the risk inherent in the nature of instrument itself. Now globally, if you see, VPPA is quite common. I read somewhere Out of the total corporate RE deals, I think close to 25% is like VPPA deals, especially in North America, Europe, these regions. The VPPA is the quantum or the level of percentage in overall deal is very, very high. Now, India, we have a different structure. We try to control everything, whether it's quantum or price, and obviously there are social obligations also from ministry and regulatory side. But you need to understand the market structure in itself. Maybe just to give you an example of REC, we all have heard of renewable energy certificate. So when I started my career long back around 2010, initial consulting assignment, I worked with the regulator, central regulator, and we were designing this REC thing. The whole, vision was that by year 2020, most of the RE electricity will be sold in exchange itself, will become like something like, it was more closer to a UK model where everything is sold in the market. That's why the APPC concept came into, and the REC model pricing was aligned with that. But unfortunately, the instrument is good, but overall, if you see, the reform in power sector has not happened that much. Because at the end of the day, all these instruments, they rely on, the power sector structure itself, who is the main buyer, distribution utility. And if you see today also, out of the total, transaction of electricity, I think close to 12% is only short-term transaction. And within that, half of that will be only power exchange and the remaining will be bilateral OTC kind of trade. So one obviously is, market liquidity remains an issue. So even if you see green day-ahead market and others, the liquidity is an issue. So VPPA is again linked to that, because at the end of the day, contract for differences, the price and other things will be mapped to the market. How liquid is the market is a key element. So one, obviously, the power sector reform and our, movement towards higher market-based, power transaction will help other instruments, whether it's REC, VPPA and others. So that's on the liquidity side. Second is tenure also. Again, most of our, contracts are long-term PPAs only, right? Obviously, lenders, they want their assurance, 10, 12 years, you need that. But in corporate PPAs, we have seen, developers are open, they are quite, some of them are risk taker, and they're looking into 10-year, 12-year, and there are exit options also for the corporate, players. So VPPA instrument itself also will get back to that only, because at the end of the day, there will be a lender, they will ask, okay, at least till my debt tenure period, I need that clarity on the price, that there is someone to absorb that loss. Otherwise, if you had a good liquid market, the market would have been good enough, price indicator giving to the lender. So apart from the power sector reforms, obviously, lenders, they need to be also, keen to innovative solutions supporting such projects. Price volatility will remain, but if the market itself, the electricity market itself is liquid, then I think that risk will get minimized. In terms of, corporates, I mean, these are all business houses, they are running pharma industry or say textile. They know good about their industry, but power sector, they have no risk appetite to take on, right? They may have deep pockets, but they will always go risk averse, especially in a market like India where, the clarity on short-term trade in long-term is not, viable. So that has remained an inherent problem, like merchant, thermal PPAs also were tested in initial, I think, 2000s, time. That has also not been very, very successful. There are projects in RE, some developers have tested. The key part is, if you move towards a merchant-based RE project in physical power, or the quantum of liquidity in power sector itself will increase, that will have, help all these, instruments, whether VPP and other. Last and important part is on the policy and the regulatory element. Now, there are players who are keen on, testing these models, and they are open to take the risk also. But I think the regulatory support, the clarity coming out that, okay, we'll support at least initial 1,000 or 2,000 megawatt, and there will be some backing from government, will be key to test these models also. So I'll stop.
Yeah, thanks a lot. I mean, India is generally a tender-driven market, and that's how the market has been growing. But this is more a question towards, as we move towards the future, should the market then be moved toward the more merchant-based market, and similar to how a lot of developed markets are going. But yeah, on this, onto Pawan, right? Do you ever consider the effect, or is it a substantial effect that could have in your forecast of VPPAs in your whole financial modeling, everything. So how does that work out from that side? Yeah.
See, whenever we see something new coming up, a new structure, a new, we may say complex contract, it appears that how will we solve it, right? But normally market takes care of itself. Ultimately, these are two components, right? One is the power, other is the green attribute, and multiple models have been tested. We have seen IREC. We are talking about virtual PPA. He was talking about how the entire REC thing happened, and also whether now if you look at from an investor perspective, whether it is an equity investor or a debt investor, if the contract or if the risk allocation is something which is largely taken care, then the financing is available. So all of these ideas practically can scale up. And when you talked about how do we see it happening moving forward, all of these things happen when all these smaller or apparently smaller component rebalances themselves so that the entire structure becomes economically viable. And that is the reason why in a developed market like UK or a couple of other markets, these are very common. In a market like India, it's very difficult for us to see through how will it shape up. And but at the same time, knowing that it has its own merit, it also solves a lot of complex problems that we are facing. Slowly, whether it is around the contracting, whether it is around the regulatory framework, Mrs. I also talked about SEBI versus right. So whether it is the regulatory framework around it, whether it is the market structure around it, or whether it is the actual contract piece, once all of these start shaping up and rebalancing, and the lender or the financing also becomes a very important component, because when you discuss with lender, they will throw a different kind of risk that okay, what will you do in case this happens or that happens. So all the stakeholder, when they work towards trying to create a structure which is apportioning the risk in a more balanced manner, then the solution emerges, right? So we see this also happening in a medium to longer term, and until that happens, a lot of deliberation around this will happen. I remember one very important, a small, very, very closed door discussion happening on the entire contract for differences mechanism. And there's so many risks that were thrown by different stakeholders that on one hand, if you see the merit, it looks like that it can solve a lot of complex problems that we are facing. On the other hand, if you get into the specifics of how a lender is looking at or how a particular discount is looking at, you feel that unless you solve the entire electricity, the way the entire market structure, it is very very difficult to take off. So let's see how it evolves over the next few months, and possibly then we'll have a better visibility on that.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Pawan. Moving on to Mr. Binay, I think something that Pawan just touched upon. So what do you think are the merits and demerits of the whole VPPA for a solar developer?
Yeah, actually, the major thing is cash is king. So if you run the business, then you have to, somewhere else you have to show the cost leadership in the terms of you are increasing the volume or scale of the business. So in this market, so when you are going for a cost leadership or increasing the volume, so definitely you have some control over the cost. When you have to, how can you control over the cost? Because the major portion of the cost of your business, maybe in C&I business, it is coming from the power sector also. So a lot of energy consumptions you are doing for which can be controlled in terms of doing VPPA. This is the biggest help that VPPA can take into the business when you grow in the business. So cost competitiveness is the major thing. So if you catch that, then you can give a better yield. So if you see the market scenario, any business they are taking ST connection and paying close to 7 to 8 rupees to the discoms, which can be avoided by the cheaper power of solar at least 2 to 3 rupees. So this can be a biggest help for the C&I sector. And the other thing is, when you are going for VPPA, then definitely you are avoiding a lot of risk, because many people, they do not know, or C&I sector, they are not the expertise of renewable, and they do not know what are the different kind of statutory approvals required. And that is to be taken, because that's why the entire project is going to be delayed. So there is no common phenomena in India, and if you see the CI approvals, it is completely different from state to state. If you see the SLDC approval, that is also completely different from state to state. And the cross subsidy, that is also different. Wheeling and banking, that is also state to state different. All grid connectivity charges also different from different in different states. So there is no single mechanism in India that to drive all such kind of things. So this kind of thing at least need a expertise way to be done. So BPPA can help in this way because if you have no expertise, at least you can buy the raw power or through a BPPA contract, which is very helpful because there is no requirement of expertise development at your risk and cost, and you can directly buy power from the through a BPPA contract. So that will enormously help the C&I sector. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think in the context of time, I'm kind of cutting short and moving to the concluding remarks. So I would like to go around the table again on what your views are on what handholding should come from the government side for better enablement of the VPPA, which could essentially help scaling up the CNI sector a bit more. So yeah, over to you, Randeep.
As we all know, SEBI and CRC have been in logjam for last over 15-20 years, I would say. The High Court had given, Bombay High Court had given some ruling in 2011, and then we had 2021, we had the Supreme Court version. But even after that, there is lack of clarity in the overall structure, because in the SCRA Act of 1956, which was amended in 2016, there was a clause where it mentions about electricity as a good, which creates a lot of confusion overall. There are other clauses as well, which which mentions about the carbon trading and electricity in general. So, and there are a lot of other contractual issues. I'm not a legal expert, but by and far, people have avoided just to avoid those conflicts. But at the same time, people are trying to innovate. So typically, what India has seen, even without regulations, things happen. Right, regulations are necessarily not needed. If there is a potential business case, it is a market-driven thing, and typically, if there is a pull, people will find out ways to execute those projects. So today, the demand is slightly less, I would say, compared to what we had seen a couple of years back, where this market was starting to grow. Just because the green open access regulations have come in. Going forward, I think there will be, as I have already mentioned, there will be challenges in developing the market. The numbers that you have thrown, I have seen some reports where we have said that there is a potential of 20 gigawatt by 2030, there is 100 gigawatt. But then, if there is physical power available, I still think that is the best solution in general. And it will be slightly challenging to overrun that because your grid costs are increasing, and then on top of it, you are putting a price to the green attributes. So I had a lot of, there are various models, like we have adopted, there are various models which will come into play, like pure play VPPAs, and then moving on to trading mechanism, which Amazon had adopted where they are taking the risk. But that will not be the case for most of the players, because people do not understand electricity. The manufacturing setup do not want to gauge into such long contracts with so much volatility in the market. So in and all, I think there is definitely a potential, and it will happen in a lot of states where physical power cannot be delivered. Even the ISTS projects, there are limited capacities which are available, and the demand that we are seeing is that upwards of 100 megawatt for one customer, like Microsoft has signed a deal, Amazon has signed a deal. So all these high volume data centers, they will be consuming huge volumes of power, and there will be always a play for all the various elements like open access, interstate, VPPAs. Everybody will has to contribute for them to reach their net zero emission goals. That's my take on it.
Thank you. So moving on to Mr. Unmesh. So what are your concluding remarks on how this market could go ahead, specifically into the VPPA?
So some remarks about, like he said, about the regulatory compliances and all those things. One thing is that uh, there should be clear uh, policies for RECs, like international RECs and domestic RECs, because many multinationals, they are keen on getting international renewable energy certificates. Then there should be clear guidelines on arbitrations, because if some conflict happens, then as SEBI and the regulatory commissions are involved, the arbitration procedures has to be clearly guideline. Then some ease of regulatory framework for the ease of adaptation, like single window for both SEBI and CERC permission. So all these things needs to be formulated, and the future is good. According to some surveys, by 2030, anywhere between 29 to 69 gigawatt will be through VPPAs. So let's keep our fingers crossed and see what happens.
Yeah, thank you. Over to you, Mr. Rajni. So, your concluding remarks on VPPAs and how the future could go.
Sure. So definitely, I mean, C&I market will grow, and within that there will be multiple instruments which will come, and VPPA definitely is one of the promising one which we have seen in North America and other places. It has the potential basically to enhance the demand also for C&I solar in general. Because what happens when you're talking about C&I customers, one obviously the large brands, they can obviously put their own projects per se. What about the small players, the MSMEs and others? So VPPA can obviously help in aggregation of demand and helping smaller C&I players to green themselves, and this is a promising instrument. Obviously, regulatory hurdles are there, but there are solutions which are there. Government has to devise a scheme or a structure, and especially in an era where government is trying to, attract a lot of investment. We have seen states also going forward. So there, I think these solutions will further, attract investment, especially North America, Europe. They are very comfortable with VPPA kind of structure. I mean, these are solutions where the risk is, shared between developer and the consumer itself. So definitely it is a very promising one. It will help scale up the demand for C&I and help the smaller consumers, the MSMEs also to adopt RE in general. I'll stop.
Yeah, thank you, Rajni. So yeah, over to you, Pawan, on your views on how this could go, because it's deliberations have been going on for some time, but only a few pilot projects have really kicked off. But maybe I'll tweak the question. So assuming the regulatory hurdles are taken off by the government and those are solved, then do you think this is gonna kind of kick off in the next decade or so? Yeah.
Sure. No, definitely VPPAs are clearly the future. There is no denial on that. And of course, regulatory stuff will shape up. The contracting will shape up. The market structure will shape up. Lenders will have to do their own share of participation in terms of deliberating how to make it happen. But knowing the kind of complexity that VPPAs can actually solve, I clearly see that is happening for sure. And the process of evaluation may take a little longer than what we expect, but this will definitely happen in my view.
Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Binaya. Your views on the future of VPPAs.
Yeah, actually VPPA already spread in the international market. So in Indian market, I think it should be immediately spread to be required. And my thought is the regulatory process to be improved in terms of CERC and SEBI, both the things. So one common framework to be required, and the small scale industries, there should be some kind of subsidies or some kind of incentives to be given so that they can follow VPPA, which can be very helpful, because they do not have such kind of expertise and they cannot do. Maybe their requirement is very small. So maybe if someone is needing only 300, 400 kilowatt, why they will go for a solar plant or renewable plant? So VPPA is a major tool there. So I think in future market, the awareness is most important. Government of India should think about this, and it should they should do some more kind of such kind of sessions to more implementation of this VPPA contract.
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you. I think I'll conclude by saying that there are a lot of regulatory hurdles, as we all know. There's, of course, a requirement of maybe standardization of contracts or more guidelines from the government side, and also maybe even some kind of capacity building and market awareness of the existence of such a mechanism in maybe a lot of small scale MSMEs and industries so that it can be widely adopted. On this note, I'd like to conclude this. Thank you all and thank you the audience. And again, thanks for the esteemed panelists who have attended this. Yeah, I'm sorry, I have a question from the side. Yeah.
Hello, sir. Namaskar. I'm Dr. Jagdish Shivahare, professor and ex-scientist ISRO. Sir, I have a general question. My question, what specific innovation practices, disruptions, and smart decision technologies are being incorporated by the concerned government and private solar industries to prepare an ambitious, bold, and transformative agenda to reach the goals of Viksit Bharat at 2047.
No, yeah, I'm sure all of us can contribute. But, sir, see, this is a very broad and very important question close to everyone's heart. Since Prime Minister Modi has talked about Viksit Bharat by 2047, all of us are looking at our country in a more elevated manner. And it also brings a lot of responsibility on us that how we can do to contribute. And, sir, you see, there are a lot of schemes and lot of drives that the government machinery is doing. Even a small things like Khelo India, which we never focus, starting from Swachhata Abhiyan. I think when we talk about a developed economy, it's not only about what is your GDP. The developed economy talks about how we as a human being are living on this planet in this country. So a lot of stuff is happening around technology, a lot of stuff is happening about overall better social being for all of us. And the entire focus on manufacturing, the entire focus on startup, the entire focus on innovation. All of these will lead we as a country to become a Viksit Bharat by 2047 is all I can say.
Any specific, just if it is there, okay, thank you, sir, for giving information. If any specific, otherwise, I'm very happy your answer. Thank you, sir. Please.
Hello. Hello. Yeah, I'm Harshul Kamar from Wood Mackenzie. My question to entire panels is that in a VPPA scenario between a developer and a CNI customer, what if the developer from the renewable energy project fails to sell the power on the power exchange platform due to maybe low liquidity or transmission issues? So what's going to happen then, and who's going to take the risk in that point?
Yeah. Randeep, you wanna?
So typically, there is a strike price, right? So it's dependent on the projections that we see from the last 10 years, and then there are future projections. If for example, I have a strike price of around say 3 rupees, and typically it's getting cleared, because what we see, the price may go down significantly. So it may go down if I have signed a contract at 3 rupees and it goes down to say 1.5 rupees. Typically, there are various models where we have some collars or some margin that up to a 50 paisa, no parties are RSS. Beyond that, we will take the hit. So it's a purely a pure CFD is slightly risky in the terms that if you don't get the deal right or the strike price right, then the fluctuations have to be borne both by the seller as well as the developer. So we don't think that it will not get sold in the market. We see that the prices can fall down significantly, where we have to take that call whether we can absorb that, or as well as the seller can absorb that or not. So that's how it works.
Yeah, I think that's it. So we're quite out of time, but we started 5 minutes late, so it's good that we ended. But in case of any other questions, I think we can reach out to the panelists. We'll be around. But yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, panelists. Thanks a lot, audience, for this session. So yeah, thank you and have a good rest of the day.